Belleville Sens podcast is back after a couple of weeks off to enjoy some of the summertime. It is episode 19 on deck, and it's going to be a lengthy and wide-ranging episode here with myself, David Foote, and Joel Vanderlaan with you as always. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening. Give us a rating and a review as we move ahead here through the offseason. Lots to talk about this week. About a dozen free agent signings by the parent club in Ottawa over the last couple of weeks. We had a couple of players leave Belleville, a couple new players coming in. We'll also touch on, the Calder Cup Final is over. We'll lead off with that in just a moment. We've got a feature interview with Belleville Sens GM Ryan Bowness and all kinds of audio from Senators Development Camp, which wrapped up in Ottawa this week. We'll hear from Leevi Merilainen, Zack Ostapchuk, Tyler Boucher, and Jorian Donovan, among others. Joel Vanderlaan was out and about getting that content for us, and he's going to give us some of his thoughts on development camp as well. But how you been, man? It's been a few weeks now. It feels like that's got to be the longest stretch we've probably gone without seeing each other face-to-face in about 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, it was definitely a different vibe around the office the last couple of weeks, but obviously, like you mentioned, a lot of action, a lot of signings, development camp as well, so lots to keep us busy, even if we were trying to get away with a little bit of vacation time as well.
Yeah, and shame on us for trying to take some time at such a busy point in the off-season. And, of course, now that we're back, it's probably going to slow down a little bit, but we'll be able to get everybody caught up, and now I think we're getting to that point in the summer where we really can start getting excited about next season. Again, we'll get into some of the big additions in the organization in a couple of minutes. Actually, before we get into the summer, let's talk about the end of the Calder Cup Final. We had previewed Game 7 in our last episode a couple of weeks ago between the Coachella Valley Firebirds and the Hershey Bears, and not only did it go to Game 7, it went to overtime, and this is how the Calder Cup was won.
Right dot, pushes it behind the net, gets around Evans, uses his big frame, hooked up a little bit, Bornstrom fins through him. Henrik Bornstrom centers, Vecchione, rolled down low, bouncing around, Bornstrom after it, in front, they score! They score! Mike Vecchione! The Bears have done it! They are Calder Cup champions! The Hershey Bears, for the 12th time in franchise history, it's sweeter by the dozen! They have done it! Mike Vecchione on a scramble.
Yeah, that's our pal Zach Fish on the Hershey Bears radio network. What a series that was. We talked again a couple weeks ago about how back and forth it was going to overtime in Game 7. The veteran Mike Vecchione with the game-winning goal, and as Zach said in his call, sweeter by the dozen, 12 times the oldest franchise in the American Hockey League, raising the Calder Cup again. What a series, and what a finish for the Hershey Bears.
Yeah, it really was, and the Hershey Bears are the gold standard of the American Hockey League. Like you mentioned, they're 12th time lifting the Calder Cup, and Zach Fish obviously elated to get through a season like that and have a call like that. That's, as you know as a broadcaster, that's the end goal. That's the dream. Mm-hmm. So really happy for him. We've met him a couple times throughout the seasons, and Coachella Valley, nothing to be sorry about or anything like that. A great season for them in their inaugural campaign, and like you mentioned, the veteran Mike Vecchione puts his team on his back and delivers a Calder Cup championship for Chocolatetown, USA.
Yeah, and huge for the fans there in Hershey. Despite losing in Game 7, which is heartbreaking, what a first season for the Coachella Valley Firebirds. So much for their fans to look forward to here in the coming years, and so much for that franchise to be able to build on.
Yeah, and I think the American Hockey League has to be ecstatic with what they saw from that franchise, and I think there's always some backlash when you put teams in non-traditional hockey markets, and the fans came out and they really came out to support their club and see some winning hockey, and that's going to be a stable, strong franchise for this league for many years to come. And we know some guys that played there, Joey Decord, Max McCormick, seen on their Instagram and their posts, they really love it there as well.
Yeah, and how could you not? Unless you don't like nice weather and easy access to golf courses and things like that. And congratulations to both of those teams for their work and for their success this season, as the Hershey Bears are the Calder Cup champions for the 12th time in their history, which now gives us a good opportunity to look into the summer and where we're at now. Of course, not the year the Belleville Senators were looking for, as we know in this league, and if you're new to the American Hockey League, as you'll find out, the turnover on the rosters is very high. Troy Mann used to put it up around 80-85% most years for most teams, and unlike last season, that is the case for Belleville this year. We had a lot of returning players last year, and this season a bunch of holes left to fill, and Pierre Dorian and Trent Mann and Ryan Bowness and the scouting team with the Ottawa Senators wasted no time when free agency opened on July 1st, signing close to a dozen players, a handful of which we will see here in the Friendly City, and that was just in that first week alone. And they did also re-sign Jacob Larson just before the July 1st free agency window opened. But here are some of the names that the Ottawa Senators have signed. Rourke Chartier, Boko Imama, we'll touch on him in a little bit. Both those guys getting 1-year, 2-way NHL contracts. Jacob Bernard Docker is back again for 2 years on a 1-way NHL deal. A lot of the chatter suggesting he'll end up in Ottawa this season. The big signing for the Senators was in the crease. Eunice Korpisalo, goaltender for 5 years, a 1-way NHL deal. That's going to solidify, we hope, the goaltending picture a little bit with Cam Talbot out. And it'll be likely Korpisalo and Forsberg, who have played together actually in the AHL before in Cleveland.
Yeah, and won a Calder Cup championship to go with their time in Cleveland. And when you look at Korpisalo, you mentioned it's the stability he brings. He plays a lot of games. He's coming into the prime of his career. Last year he got into some postseason games with the LA Kings as well after joining them from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I think when you look at the goaltending department and you look at the work Zach Burke can do and Justin Peters now, they know who they're going to have slotted 1 through 5 in the organization, hopefully. And last year when you looked at, I think, 13 combined goalies between the two clubs. So I think that's the biggest thing that Korpisalo is going to bring, along with just his stellar play. And
with that stability, hopefully we'll get some stability in the crease here in Belleville, where you're going to have Mads Sogard and then likely either Leevi Merilainen or Kev Mandalese in behind him. And I think for Belleville Senators fans, that's an exciting trio to look forward to.
Yeah, it definitely is. You saw Mads Sogard kind of take the reins, played well in the NHL. Kevin Mandalese still developing. He's had some good stretches of play when he's been healthy. And then Leevi Merilainen's kind of the shiny toy, so to speak, with the organization right now, and rightfully so after a great season in Karpat. Obviously shined in Belleville and then got into some NHL games and acquitted himself well there as well.
A handful of other 1-year, 2-way NHL deals, including Garrett Pilon, who just won the Calder Cup with the Hershey Bears. He's coming to the Senators. Could end up in Belleville. Josh Curry, a former captain in the American Hockey League. Plenty of experience on his resume. They were both signed, as was Eric Brandstrom, for another year. And AHL deals, 3 of them completed. Brendan Saulnier and Graham McPhee will be back, adding some bottom 6 depth here in Belleville. And Ryan McKinnon signing a 1-year, 1-way AHL deal. What do we know about him?
Well, I think with Ryan McKinnon, I think it's the intangibles. He won Special Team Man of the Year with the Bridgeport Islanders for his work in the community, and I think when I talked to Ryan at development camp, I think that's something that they really want to invest into, the person, not just the hockey player. And when he became available, I think they jumped on that pretty quickly, and obviously a good depth piece for the Belleville Senators.
And one other big signing before we get to players who have left the organization, and that's behind the bench, as Nathan McIver will be the new assistant coach with the Belleville Senators, replacing David Bell, who moved into the head coaching job last season.
Yeah, Nathan McIver, and I think with him too, you look at his experience. Former player, played a lot of games in the American Hockey League, knows this league, knows the travel, knows how to relate to players, and then his coaching career has been one that's been on the rise with the Newfoundland Growlers. Helps as an assistant coach lead them to back-to-back Eastern Conference championships, and worked under Bob Jones, who's in the Ottawa organization with the Oshawa Generals. So I think when you look at him, he's getting rave reviews from all over the place and even within the organization. Ryan Bowness played against him in Major Junior in the OHL when he was with St. Mike's, and Ryan was with the Brampton Battalion. So two guys that, and I think when you look at it, you want to know that you can trust guys that you played against them and they played hard and they do the right things. So I think that really kind of sealed the deal for him joining this organization.
Much more on him to come in the coming weeks. We'll try to get Nate McIver on the program in the coming weeks. We'll also try to catch up with some of those newly signed Senators, including Graham McPhee and Brennan Saulnier and others. So once again, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. We should be back on the weekly schedule now with lots more kind of happening, and that is the plan moving forward before we head into Season 2 of the show in October. So that's who's coming in. Again, about a dozen players that the Ottawa Senators signed in the first week of free agency. Some tough news to take at this time of year. It always is when some of your favorite players don't come back, and two of those guys leaving last week. Jake Lucchini is headed to the Iowa, or to the Wild organization anyway. Likely he'll land in Iowa. And Scott Sabourin's off to the West Coast and the San Jose Sharks. Two big losses, but again, I think the Senators have kind of already addressed filling gaps with similar type of players.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, obviously, like you mentioned, it's a little bittersweet. And for Jake Lucchini, back-to-back 50-point seasons, really got his pro career going here in the Friendly City. Even got into 11 games with the Ottawa Senators last year. So I know he has an affection for the Midwest, going to college in Michigan. His girlfriend's from the Wisconsin area. So really happy to see him land there. And I know he's going to do wonderful things for that organization. And then Scott Sabourin, what can you say? Plays hard every game. Fans love him. I think we talk about the person every time there's a fan wanting an autograph or just to chat with him or school visits, whatnot. He's always up for that. He was always doing that. He was always taking care of the fans and the community. So the San Jose Sharks organization gets a great player, a great person, and he'll be missed here as well.
Other players that were not qualified or have not been offered contracts yet: goaltender Dylan Ferguson, defenseman Jonathan Aspero, and should he not end up signing here again, that might be a tough pill to swallow for some Belleville Sens fans, as one of the longest tenured Belleville Senators, and another guy who really used his time in the Friendly City to kickstart his pro career and get himself noticed. Victor Lodin, who was gone with injury for basically the last third of the season or more, will not be re-signed, and Antoine Bibeau, a contract not offered to him at this point. A handful of other players that are free agents, not officially gone, and of course, as always, you can keep up to date with the latest signings and roster info via our off-season player tracker at BellevilleSens.com. That's the recap as best as we can provide it right now. We'll get a little bit more insight on some of those signings from the general manager. Ryan Bowness is with us next as episode 19 of the Belleville Sens podcast continues on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.
Get in the game. Start planning now for the next season of Belleville Senators hockey. The new Belleville Sens Business Elite program is a season seat membership just for business. Use tickets to treat your staff or attract new clients. Benefits include AHL TV game packages, exclusive member events, and more. All packages offer a VIP business experience like in-arena signage. More info on season seat memberships, flex packs, and the Business Elite program at BellevilleSens.com. Go, Sens, go!
Back on episode 19 of the Belleville Sens podcast, David Foote and Joel Vanderlaan here as we continue to creep towards the middle of the offseason. Things really getting going with free agency opening last week, and we're going to get a little bit more on the process of building a roster, kind of what management is up to at this time of year in just a moment with Belleville Senators General Manager Ryan Bowness, who Joel caught up with at Senators Development Camp in Ottawa earlier on this week. A busy few days for those Sens prospects at Development Camp. And again, for those who are maybe just starting to follow the development process a little bit closer now, tell us a bit about Dev Camp, Joel, and exactly what players are doing there and who's there, because even unlike last year, there were not a lot of Belleville Senators or guys who had dressed for this team at Dev Camp this year.
Yeah, so development camp happens each season right after the NHL entry draft, and it's really a chance for these guys to get indoctrinated with the organization. So they're doing on-ice workouts with development coaches, Sean Donovan, Jesse Winchester, Wade Redden, Chris Neal. All these guys played for the Ottawa Senators, and they're helping them to kind of get on track with what the Ottawa Senators want them to do in their developmental path. So you look at the guys that were drafted, Hoyt Stanley, these players, and they're going to go off to college, but Senators want them, before they head to I guess their U.S. college teams or their junior teams, they want them to kind of get to know what the Sens are looking for in their game, and that's on the on-ice stuff. Then there's health and nutrition classes. There's meeting David Bell. He does a seminar on what it's like to play in the American Hockey League for these guys that are going to turn pro. There's, like we mentioned, there's everyone's favorite seminar or class is the fighting. So
right.
A boxing instructor comes out there and he teaches them how to protect themselves, as obviously hockey's a physical game, and there's fighting if needed. So it's a wide-ranging thing. They get to meet each other, get to reconnect, and kind of become as one as an organization. And then, like we mentioned, the draft picks are there. There's undrafted free agents that join as well, just to kind of help fill out the roster. And then it ends with probably the funnest day, and the thing the players really look forward to at the end is the 3-on-3 tournament at the Sensplex, and it gives the fans an idea of what these prospects can do on the ice. They get to see them, they get excited by them, and development camp's obviously a fun week for these prospects, a fun evaluation for management and the coaching staff as well. So it's all encompassing, but it's also a very important couple days in Ottawa.
Yeah, and it's really just like you say, a chance to give these brand new professional hopefuls a taste of what the NHL is all about. You get to go in, see the dressing room, see the facilities, all the gear that you're wearing has the Ottawa logo on it. And, like you said, just trying to kickstart that development and introducing prospects into the Ottawa system. Let's hear a little bit more about development camp, the off-season so far, and more with Ryan Bowness, the general manager of the Belleville Senators.
Hectic time of the year for NHL executives. You got development camp going on. You have NHL free agency. How happy and how rewarding are you with the ability to kind of build the depth through the first couple days of free agency here?
To be honest, we were very happy. I think this year, last year being my first year, I came a little bit late to the party, so it was a little bit of a scramble on free agency day. I think this year we felt a lot more prepared. Our lists were much more in order, having spent a year with the organization, with the pro scouts, with the office staff. So we felt very prepared going in, and I feel like July 1 was a success in terms of building the depth, in terms of adding the pieces that we wanted to add. We had some targets that we were able to acquire, and anytime that happens, I think you leave that day feeling pretty good.
Specifically the forward position, you really did some good work on there on the opening day of free agency. Josh Curry, a player from your time in Pittsburgh, what does he bring?
Character and leadership would be the two biggest qualities. I've known Josh for a long time. Actually, going way back when I was in Winnipeg, I wanted to sign him out of junior as an overage. So I've tracked him and followed him for a long time. Like you say, we had him in Pittsburgh for a year there. He was our captain in Wilkes-Barre that year. So he's a player that I've always liked. I've always liked the compete level. I've always liked the approach he takes to the game. and he's going to help Dylan Hetherington a lot with leadership in our dressing room, which was an area that we wanted to address this year, and I feel like we've done that with Josh and a few of the other pieces.
Just looking at the stat sheet with a guy like Matthew Highmore, 61 points with Springfield. What does he do to kind of the organizational depth? He's played in the NHL. I know Pierre Dorian mentioned he really liked his game with the Vancouver Canucks as well.
Yep, great depth player, high compete, great speed. Like you say, he's you look at his career numbers, he's almost spent as much time in the NHL as he has in the American League. So I know Matthew's goal is to stick in Ottawa, and I think any player that we signed on that day, that's their goal, and that's where they want to be. But if they do end up in Belleville, it's going to be a benefit for the organization. But in Matthew's case, again, a high-end American League player, almost a point a game last year. He was an all-star in the American League last year. Got a little bit of time in St. Louis, probably not as much as you'd have liked, but again, a player that I've always liked.
Boko Imama, I think he's kind of speaks for himself with his physical identity, but how much does that help the prospects, and even up here in Ottawa, knowing when you got a guy like him on the bench?
Well, it's huge. It's just having his presence. Another guy that I've seen play quite a bit from his time out west when I was based out there. Listen, Boko's another guy that I think you'll probably see him in Ottawa more than you will down below. I think that's the plan for him. But again, met him the other day. He's excited to be a part of the organization. His main goal is to be in Ottawa, and again, just a great addition for our forward group.
Garrett Pilon, another guy you're able to bring in, a wealth of experience in the American Hockey League, like the other players. But he has a Calder Cup championship. He's coming in with that pedigree. What does that do for the organization, knowing that you have a guy like that that's been through the battles, been through the wars of a full Calder Cup playoffs?
Well, again, that's a big part of the reason why we wanted to acquire him. Just having that experience, I think, having gone through that, myself up top in Pittsburgh, it's something that you can't teach. It's having that just recently gone through it and bringing that to the organization is an invaluable piece. And he's a good player. He's another guy that's going to be an important part of our depth. Our pro guys really liked him. So again, acquiring him as part of our plan was a great addition for us.
You bring back Rourke Chartier. Fans in Belleville know his game really well. A proven goal scorer, 20 goals in 40 games. What was it, the negotiations like with him, and how much did he express his interest to be back with the organization?
Well, the familiarity there was certainly a big part of it. He knows that DJ Smith is a fan of his when he was up. Again, as you mentioned, he's a proven player at the American League level that we feel is going to be a very valuable piece up in Ottawa as well. Just, again, the familiarity as with Pierre and DJ. I've always been a fan of the way Rourke plays. He plays a pretty consistent style. Unfortunately, when he was up last year in Ottawa, he ended up getting the injury that really kind of derailed things. But, again, he's going to come into camp with the mindset that he's going to be here in Ottawa.
And then you were able to do a little bit of house cleaning on the Belleville side as well. Graham McPhee's back. Brendan Saulnier will be back as well. You signed Ryan McKinnon, a guy that has tremendous off-ice in the community. You won Specialty Player of the Year award. How much did that kind of go into your thoughts? I know everyone talks about the NHL signings on day one, but how important was it to get those deals done as well?
Well, very. I said to all three of those guys, like the culture and everything that we want to build in Ottawa and Belleville, they're going to be a big part of that. I truly believe that your American League affiliate is where you develop your prospects, but players like the three that we signed in Brendan, Ryan, and Graham are going to be a big part of that in terms of helping our young guys become pros, and just their attitude every day, how they approach the game, how they approach their day-to-day life. Those are important pieces, and they're priorities for Belleville, and they're going to do nothing but benefit our prospects at the same time.
You certainly endorsed David Bell after he took over the reins last season. He comes back as a full-time head coach. You add Nathan McIver as well as an assistant coach after some successful seasons with Newfoundland Growlers. Kind of talk to Belleville Senators fans about what this coaching staff kind of brings to the organization and kind of the character of the men that are leading these prospects.
Well, you just said it right there. They're two quality men. I didn't know David coming into last year, but really grew a strong amount of respect for him and had a good relationship with him really from the get-go. He and I hit it off pretty well from when I first got here last year in development camp. And listen, he earned the opportunity, he earned the right to come back as a full-time coach. I think he saw a positive influence he had not only on the ice but in the dressing room and with our prospects as well. His day-to-day approach. He's a solid human being, but he's also a no-nonsense guy where you know what you're going to get out of him every day. And to me, that's what you want out of a coach. You just want to know where you stand every day. And he has that ability to find the fine line between getting across the message that he wants, while also, let the players all care about him and respect him and want to play hard for him. So that's the biggest thing. And then with Nathan, I've known Nathan for a long time. But when we started this process and searching for an assistant coach, I made it very clear to Belleville that these were going to be his hires. He's going to do the interview process. I can give him names, but at the end of the day, he's going to make the choice. And I'm thrilled that Nathan ended up being his choice because, again, I've known Nathan for a long time. Always loved his character. Always loved his leadership qualities, who he is as a person, how he carries himself. And he's grown from. I played against him in major junior, and he's transitioned that style over to his coaching career. And it helps. He started in Oshawa under Bob Jones, who's an assistant coach in Ottawa. So obviously, with Jonesy giving his recommendation, and from the get-go, he was Jonesy was the one that was telling me he's your guy. So thrilled that Nathan's going to be a part of the staff. And for me, even just being here this week, just seeing the cohesion between Ottawa and Belleville's coaching staffs has been wonderful, and it's only going to get better with these guys.
And then just finally, while you're still engaging in free agency, it's an ongoing process. Development camp is going on. In your role, what are you kind of looking for from this week, and what are you kind of have your eyes on?
It's hard because I don't see a lot of these kids during the year. I don't see a lot of the amateur guys. So for me, it's just it's hard to throw these guys in the middle of the summer like this and kind of expect to get much an evaluation on them. But you see things like Tyler Cleve and how well he's playing out there, and him taking a leadership role, and Boucher and Donovan and these guys that have been here in years past, and seeing them grow as pros and the steps that they've taken over the course of the year. So really just out of this week, you want to get the guys to have a good feel for the organization, get a little bit more comfortable as the week goes on. So when they do come to training camp or, moving forward as a pro, they have that more familiarity with us.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate your time as always.
Yeah, no problem, Joel. Anytime.
Belleville Sens General Manager Ryan Bowness with Joel Vanderlaan from development camp this week, which is all wrapped up now out in Ottawa. The coaching staff and Belleville's locker room staff, basically, the trainers, the equipment staff, all in Ottawa last week, so they'll all come home and get a couple more weeks off. And the rest of the offseason is fairly standard now for the next few weeks anyway. The free agency period continues. We'll have training camps opening at the NHL level in September. The rookie tournament, which was in Buffalo last season, not sure where they're going this year, is also in September, and Belleville's training camp, as usual, will open the first weekend in October. Should let you know that I don't believe any preseason games are being played at CAA Arena this season. We will obviously have all the info on that coming up, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. The schedule should be out in the next couple of weeks, and you can start planning for the upcoming hockey season. Before we get on to the rest of our content from development camp, interviews with Leevi Merilainen, Zack Ostapchuk, Tyler Boucher, and Jorian Donovan. What did you make of that conversation with Ryan Bowness, Joel? Wide-ranging, like you mentioned, fairly in-depth, and it seems like, from his perspective, we're in a good spot here as we head towards the middle of July.
Yeah, I think with that chat with Ryan, I think there's a lot of positives that come out of it. He talks about the guys they were able to bring in and bolster the depth for the Ottawa Senators organization, and in part some really good players that are going to find their way down to the friendly city because of the work they were able to do on July 1st. And I think his thoughts on development camp as well, and getting an evaluation on these guys. And some of these guys in development camp are going to turn pro in the next couple of months, and it's good to help them get indoctrinated with what David Bell wants to do, and kind of learn some of the ways he sees the games in his meetings. So I think when I was able to talk to Ryan, I think a lot of that stuff kind of shone through, and obviously an exciting time for this organization.
It certainly is, and we'll catch up again, I'm sure, with Ryan before the season begins at least once as we check off more of those milestones throughout the course of this summer. We'll take another quick break here on episode 19 of the Belleville Sens podcast. When we're back, we'll hear from Leevi Merilainen, Zack Ostapchuk, Tyler Boucher, and Jorian Donovan, who were all getting back into the rhythm at development camp in Ottawa this week. Stay with us on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network. Back in a moment.
Don't miss 1 second of Belleville Senators action this season. The Belleville Sens Entertainment Network is the only place to hear live coverage of the Belleville Senators for all 72 games plus playoffs. Pre-game coverage begins 15 minutes before each game with David Foote, and the network is also home to the Belleville Sens podcast, the Belleville Senators Entertainment Network, presented by Deerhaven Farm and Garden. Tune in on the Belleville Sens app or BellevilleSens.com.
Episode 19 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Into the final segment this week. David Foote, Joel Vanderlaan here with you as always. Thanks again to Ryan Bowness for his time out at development camp. Didn't get a chance to sit down with Dave Bell while you were out there, but our friends over at the Locked On Senators podcast did. You can check them out on Twitter at Sens Central, and they had a really good conversation with the coach, telling some pretty funny stories about kind of the dynamics around development camp. It's an interesting time of year through development camp and into training camp for the AHL staff because, as Belsey put it, you kind of want to keep your distance from guys who are trying to make the National Hockey League. They have their sights set on the NHL. Nobody at this time of year is really thinking about coming to Belleville unless you've signed an American Hockey League contract. And Belsey saying, yeah, guys duck away from me in the hallway. They pretend to take calls when they see me. Nobody talks to me unless I'm running a session. And, even with that, Belleville's coaching staff pretty involved out there at development camp. But it is an odd kind of time of year.
Yeah, and I think, too, with David Bell, I think you saw his personality kind of shine through that interview with the Locked On Senators guys, and he's exactly right. These guys have their sights set on playing in the National Hockey League. It's something they've dreamed of their whole life, and but also important that he's there as a guy that's developed so many of these players through the organizations. You look at Jacob Bernard-Docker earned his one-way contract. A big part of that is because of David Bell and his developmental work. Eric Brandstrom gets a nice deal as well, and guys that learned under him, played under him. So I think when these guys go in those seminars and then they get to see David Bell and he gets to tell them about what he sees and how he sees the game of hockey, it's vital and obviously kind of an interesting week for him, but at the end of the day, just seeing him there, he's in his element, right? He's laughing, he's joking around, he loves the game of hockey, he's dedicated his life to it, and really excited to see him lead the reins here and have the bench to himself and get going because, like we said, these guys want to play in the NHL. David Bell has aspirations to be a head coach. He has aspirations to go even higher, and this is the first step for him in that regard as well. And talking to Ryan, obviously he endorsed him. They wanted him back, and he's going to have his reign here for this season.
All right, let's get into some of these interviews here. You did the interviews, so we'll let you direct traffic here and tell me where you want to go first. Again, we've got the goaltender, Leevi Merilainen, the forwards, Zack Ostapchuk and Tyler Boucher, and the defenseman, Jorian Donovan, who we've heard a fair bit from here on the show in recent weeks and dating back to the end of the season there when he made his AHL debut. So where would you like to start?
Well, maybe we'll go in alphabetical order here, and we'll start with Tyler Boucher. And obviously, he's a guy that's eligible to turn pro this season after his major junior career has kind of come to an end, and had a tough season. Had a torn labrum in his right shoulder that he suffered at the World Juniors. But all in all, I think when you talk to Tyler Boucher, he lives in the moment. He doesn't think about the past. He doesn't even really think too much about the future as well. He's very present. He's a young guy that speaks very well. He's obviously, you can see kind of the pedigree of him and his father, Brian, played in the NHL for a long time. So, a difficult season, but I think the future is bright for this young man. 10th overall selection in 2021 by the Ottawa Senators, and he talks about in his interview the rehab process and the faith the Sens have kind of put into him. So I'm excited to see him. I was really excited to talk to him as well and kind of get his perspective on how things have gone, because there's a lot of noise, right, when you're on IR and you're not maybe playing as many games as you want. So but kind of going into his mind a little bit here, I think you can see why the Senators organization is so high on him.
Let's get that perspective from Tyler Boucher on the Belleville Sens podcast, the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.
How has development camp been for you? This is your second year at one of these events. How much have you seen your game kind of grow in the last calendar year as well?
Oh, a ton. I mean, obviously there's some injuries in there, but you know, I feel great. These guys take unbelievable care of me. It's insane what they do for me every day. I mean, I've spent last summer here, and I spent a lot of my time here, and they go above and beyond for me. So I'm feeling confident at all times, and I feel great.
You mentioned the care they take into you. They selected you in the first round. You're a big part of the future of this organization. You certainly feel that way.
I mean, yeah, 100%. I think obviously I want to do everything I can to help the team, help the organization. You know, help bring a cup here. So I'm gonna work as hard as I can. I know they'll take care of me, and I guess it's just a day-to-day thing. But obviously, in the end, I want to be playing on the team and have an important impact and help the guys win.
You're eligible to turn pro. Are you able to kind of let yourself think back on some of the significant memories you've made through your junior career, or are you kind of set on the current now more so?
I'm current now. I'm ready. To turn pro. Obviously, it was great with the 67s. They took great care of me as well. But this is something I've been looking forward to my whole life. Obviously, turning pro, and this is what I felt I was meant to do, and I'm excited for it.
Last winter, you're able to win bronze at the World Juniors with Team USA. What does that mean to you? And kind of growing up through the U.S. National Team Development Program with all those guys, that must have been special.
Yeah, I mean, I played 2 years at the program there, and that was unbelievable. I mean, just to start there, I don't know where I'd be without going to NTDP, and then, like you said, winning the bronze and at the World Juniors is pretty special. Obviously, it wasn't gold, but it's something we could take home and remember forever. So that was a great experience, and it's truly an honor to wear the USA. Every time you get to do it, it's something special, and I'm grateful that I was able to.
Your father's had a big impact on your career. How much does he mean to you, and kind of watching him throughout his standout NHL career, just taking pieces from here and there and being around an NHL locker room at a young age?
100%. I mean, I grew up in the rink. That's how I fell in love with the game. And obviously having a dad who played in the NHL, he understands things differently. And it's easy to relate to situations. So whatever, if I'm struggling, he's been there. He's struggled at the highest level too, and just like everybody does. And it's easy, it's great, have him as a dad, but also a best friend to lean back on. And not just my dad. I mean, my mom was there along with the ride with him, so she played a huge role with him, and she plays a huge role with me too. So without them, I'd be screwed.
What's next for you as you go through the rest of the summer and heading into training camp? What are you specifically working on, and kind of are you able to relax a little bit as well?
100%. I mean, it has been too much relaxing, which I'm okay with. I think I'm going to go home here next week, go home for about a month, obviously stay on the same course, getting my shoulders as strong as possible before the year starts, and just working on little things in my game. I think skating can always improve, getting my shot back after the surgery there, and it feels good so far, but I think just looking at holes in my game that were on video from last year, and kind of taking that and working on those things.
Is home for you the Philadelphia area still?
Yes, it is. That's kind of where I grew up. That's where I call home. So,
are you able to do skate at the Flyers zone there in Voorhees still when you go home?
Yeah, Flyers skate zone. There's a couple other rinks. We kind of bounce around. It's never just one, but yeah, that's the one I grew up playing in, and a lot of memories there for sure.
All right, thank you, Tyler. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Tyler Boucher kicking off our development camp series, and some nice insight from him again on what it's like kind of being a top prospect and going through that rehab process. Like you said before the interview, Joel, not an easy thing to really deal with. I mean, you're already dealing with the pressure of being a first-round draft pick. Forget the fact that your dad is a highly touted NHL player, and then you've got to deal with being hurt. going through that yourself, and then dealing with fans and people saying, oh, well, what's taking this guy so long? We need him to come make an impact, but he seems to be dealing with it fairly well.
Yeah, he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and throughout the interview, right, you see that he's living in the present, and I was really excited to kind of get those insights from him because, like you mentioned, there's a lot of noise, and it's good to see that he's got the good head on his shoulders, and he's taking it day by day, and I think if we're able to see him in Belleville, I think he's going to become a fan favorite. He plays a heavy, hard game, and obviously he's got the skill that made him a 10th overall selection.
All right, we'll continue on in alphabetical order here. A guy who, again, you've heard from a fair bit lately, Jorian Donovan, finishing up with the Hamilton Bulldogs last season, joining the Belleville Senators, got into 2 games at the end of the campaign to officially kickstart his pro career, and he was back at development camp this week as well. So here's Joel with defenseman Jorian Donovan.
This is your second year in development camp. When you look back through the last calendar year, you've had a successful time with the Hamilton Bulldogs. You led all defensemen in scoring. You played in some American Hockey League games. How have you seen your game progress over that time?
Yeah, obviously it was nice to have a year like last year. Got to improve personally, so it was it was really good. Got a lucky chance to go play a couple American League games at the end of the year, which was I'm really fortunate to have those. Yeah, so it's just every year you want to get better, and I thought it was a big year for me and a big step in the right direction.
How much did that kind of help you going forward to get into those American Hockey League games and kind of compare to the OHL and development camp here as well?
Yeah, obviously when you move up from the OHL and play an American League game, it's a whole nother level. You go from playing against 16, 17-year-olds to going and playing against men. So it was a cool experience for me to go play against guys who are they're physically more developed and bigger, faster, stronger guys. So yeah, I thought it was an unbelievable experience.
It's pretty cool to get into that Battle of Ontario rivalry as well.
Absolutely, yeah, that was unbelievable.
As you kind of head into this next season, what are you kind of working on this summer as you go into your third OHL season in Brantford?
Yeah, one of the biggest things was my main focus was kind of weight-wise. It was kind of started out a little light last year, and I wanted to just put on a little more muscle mass like everyone kind of wants to do. So that's kind of been my biggest focus. But for me to be more of a, I guess you'd say, stable game, I'm a bit, I guess you'd say, a jumpy player that likes to get in the offense, but just to be a more reliable player throughout the year.
I know a lot of scouts, when they speak about your game, they talk about the skating ability. How much pride do you take in that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I work on every week, almost every day. With we got Shelly Kettles here in Ottawa, which she's been great, and I've kind of had her my whole life, and it's one of my biggest focus now. The game's getting so fast, so it's one thing that everyone's working on, and you have to keep working on it to stay ahead of the game.
How advantageous is it for you to be in a position where you have your dad, a development coach, a guy that's played in the NHL, and then you go to Hamilton and you got Jay McKee and his staff as well, kind of helping progress your game?
Yeah, I've been super fortunate to have guys who've been around the game, guys who've played many games in the NHL to kind of be mentor, and guys I can look up to, defensemen like Jay McKee and Andrew Campbell, who've both played, which is unbelievable, and having a guy like my dad who I get to see him every day and get to learn from him, and a guy who's played a ton of NHL games. So it's been a great experience, and it's really been super helpful in my development just to have those resources at my fingertips.
You mentioned you go back to the farm in the off season. How's that been to be home with your family? I know you're a guy that's very family oriented as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super awesome to not have to travel too far to come to camp here. So it's nice to be in a familiar area that I'm really used to, and having the family close is always nice.
You're obviously excited to head back to Brantford next season. Kind of how's that process been with the renovations, the moving of the team, and the kind of the information you've got on that as well?
Yeah, I think everyone's really excited. I know they put a lot of time and effort into this move here, and I've heard is good things. So I'm really excited. I know we're going to have a really good team. So I'm super excited just to see the setup there and get to see the whole feel of the new Brantford Bulldogs.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Appreciate your time as always.
Defenseman Jorian Donovan at Sens Development Camp. He'll be in Brantford. He'll be back in the Ontario Hockey League this year. But what we saw from him, even in that brief sample size last season, poised for a big, big year. in junior, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think when you look at Jorian Donovan, he's got the template kind of in Max Gannett of the type of defenseman that I think the organization thinks he can be, and 45 points in 55 games in the OHL last year, so progressing nicely, and obviously a player that's got a good head on his shoulders as well, as his dad played in the National Hockey League too, and very family-oriented, and always a nice guy to chat with.
We got his behind the B answers as well. If you haven't seen on the Sens social media at Belleville Sens, favorite hockey memory for Jorian Donovan, an OHL championship. Gee, what could top that? He is a big Morgan Wallen fan. His favorite vacation spot is Sweden, which is interesting because I heard him and Leevi Merilainen on the bus last year talking a lot about Finland and Leevi's hometown and what it's like there. So a little bit of an eye for the Scandinavian countries, it seems. His favorite athlete, and this is very topical for this time of year, Joey Chestnut, the hot dog eating champion of the world, and he likes Black Mirror, which I haven't watched an episode of, but I hear is very good. So there you go. That's Behind the B with Jorian Donovan. Two more interviews to get to, and speaking of Leevi Merilainen, he is up next. The young goaltender who was spectacular in his Belleville Sens debut, getting that 40-save shutout in his AHL debut. He put up a couple other strong performances as well for the Senators near the end of the season, and he joined Joel this week as well out in Ottawa.
Leevi, how would you kind of rate your season as you look back? You had a record-setting season with Carpat. You come in, you play your first NHL game, your first game in Belleville, you collect a shutout against a pretty good Toronto Marlies team. When you look back on it, how impressive was that to go through?
Yeah, I had a lot of ups, a few downs too, back home. So it was a little bit of a roller coaster for me. But I think I finished strong. Like I had a good end of the season. From halfway through, I felt like I improved a lot, and then I could keep my average game at a good level. So I'm happy with that. And then of course, the way the season ended, could have never thought about it.
It's fair to say you felt pretty comfortable in Belleville when you first came over. As we mentioned, you get the shutout. How big was it to have a guy like Lassie Thompson, a guy like Roby Arventi in the locker room with you, helping you through the nuances of the American Hockey League?
Well, it was good. It was good because I had been in Kingston before, so that was a good experience for me for sure before coming back here, because got used to how things are done here and what things are like. And back in Kingston, we didn't have any Finns there, so I think that was good for me too, to get used to speaking more English and living with other national guys from other nations. And but it was good to have a few Finns there to throw some jokes around, and they told me how things are done. So it was good. It was good.
How big is a camp like this to kind of work with Justin Peters again, work with Zach Burke, and kind of get their ideas on what they want to see from your game? I know you go back to Finland and you skate quite often, but just to be with those guys again.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, because it's good that I know them before, so it's easy to approach them. They have an easy time approaching me, know who I am and how I am, so it's good to be back with those guys, and they know what they're doing, so it's always fun.
How much did you enjoy your time in Belleville? I know it was only a couple games, but a lot of fan support. The fans certainly gravitated to you right away. How cool was that to see kind of the fan base come around you and cheer you on?
It was awesome. It was awesome to see that they appreciate what I do, but don't like to think about too much what others think, because when you're doing bad, someone might hate you a lot, and when you're doing good, someone might love you. So it's kind of how the game is, what my job is to do my thing, and of course I like the support.
What did you think of the facilities at CA Arena as well?
Oh, they surprised me. They're a lot better than I thought, so it was unreal actually. I thought it was really good.
And you got into a few games in the National Hockey League. You got to play against the Carolina Hurricanes, Sebastian Aho, a guy you probably have grown up looking up to as well. How cool is it to face those shots and know, hey, I can turn these guys away and I can face these NHL shots.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun. I've been practicing against him during the summers a lot because we are from the same city and we practice in the same group now. So, but it was a lot of fun, like facing those shots in the game, and like it was a good experience, hard one. Know what to do next time when I get up there, and hopefully, and yeah, it was unreal.
Obviously, your goal is to make the NHL full time. What are you working on this summer to kind of help that process and grow your game?
Just trying to grow into my frame more and get stronger and faster in the ice, and yeah, just working on those small details on the ice too.
I know you're a hard-working guy. Vacation, are you able to take any? Are you able to see Roby and some of these guys while you're over there in Finland, or is it straight back to work for you?
Pretty much straight back to work. Had a little vacation after the season ended, and then one more week off back home. But then I just thought to myself, gotta get back to it. Cause, I don't like staying put, so I love practicing, playing games, doing like something. So yeah, not planning on any more vacations anymore.
How much did playing in the NHL, playing in the AHL, your excellent season with Karpak kind of help light a fire under you as well?
Well, definitely. It always helps you with your confidence and with your enthusiasm, like to get back at it. So yeah, it was huge.
And Leevi Merilainen will be a huge part of the goaltending picture for the Senators organization for the next few seasons, for sure. And as we talked about earlier on, Joonas Korpisalo signed to Ottawa. Anton Forsberg, I should say, is back. And that means that likely Leevi will be here with Mads Søgaard and potentially Kevin Mandolese as well. So a big season on the way for goaltenders here in the club as they try to really make themselves stand out against the rest of the competition in the crease.
Yeah, and Levy's done a good job of that. Last year, his first year in pro, he really had a great season. He obviously set the rookie shutout record in La Liga, and he comes here, he gets a shutout in his first game with the Belleville Sens, and then he goes to the NHL and shows that he can play at that level as well. So he's going to continue to kind of go on that development path, and like you mentioned, he doesn't like to take too much vacation. He likes to get back to work, and he's definitely got his sights set on being an NHL goalie, and I think that's what he's going to do eventually. And I think working with Justin Peters for a full year here in Belleville and getting into this environment and being a professional full-time is going to do wonders for him.
All right, and lastly, in our development camp series, Zack Ostapchuk, the Senators' second-round pick in 2021, 39th overall. He has twice represented Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championship, including this past season where he had 3 points in 7 games played. Big piece of the puzzle in the Winnipeg Ice run this season as well. 15 points in 18 playoff games. Not to mention, he put up I can't do my math, 60, 70-ish points or so in about 55 games in the dub this year. So he's highly skilled, likely headed this way. He's set to turn pro. And Zack Ostapchuk chatted with Joel in Ottawa earlier this week.
Zach, how's the week been here at development camp for yourself?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, whenever you get a chance to get back into this environment with these guys and all the coaches, I mean, it's good for you as a player and as a person. I mean, to see all these guys again and reconnect with all the prospects, it's been nice.
As much as it is an on-ice development setting, you learn about health and safety, you learn about nutrition and stuff like that. How much has that kind of, as you plan to turn pro this year, kind of learned more about that stuff and kind of tried to dig deeper into that as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a big help. I mean, you come here and they want to turn you pro as quick as they can, right? So, I mean, they give you those skills through our little seminars and nutrition classes and, like you said, all that stuff. I mean, it just helps you in the long run. So I know our guys love those talks, and it'll be fun to keep the week going.
You were captain with the Vancouver Giants. How much do you kind of relish taking a leadership group, even in a setting like this?
Yeah, I mean, this is my third camp now, so I kind of know what's going on, and I like to help the guys that just come in. And yeah, I guess being a captain on my junior team kind of helped me with this role. So I mean, yeah, I think me and the older guys that have been here for a couple of years, we kind of showed them the ropes a bit, and it's been good.
You had a storied career with Vancouver, Winnipeg, and with Hockey Canada. How much do you kind of look back on those memories now as you're kind of wrapping up your time in the WHL?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think I had a pretty good junior career, and I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish there. So, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to have those memories, but I'm just looking forward to turning pro this year. So,
I know you get asked a lot. The World Juniors, not many guys win 2 gold medals, especially you were able to win one in your hometown of Edmonton. What does that mean to you, and kind of those high-pressured moments? How can you take that to the pro game as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in pro, it's high-pressure situations every game. So, I mean, playing in those World Juniors and getting those experiences, especially in those semifinal and gold medal games, I mean, it was really cool for me to kind of play under the lights and for your country. So, yeah, those are experiences that will definitely help me this year when I turn pro.
Throughout the summer, what are you kind of working on as you try to get ready for training camp here?
Yeah, I want to really work on my skating, just get that extra couple steps in me, and obviously just got to get bigger and stronger. I mean, to play in this league and play pro. So I think those are my main focuses, just getting a quicker step and then just getting stronger. What
do you know kind of about the Ottawa region, maybe even a little bit about Belleville? Have you kind of dove into that throughout the last couple of years?
Yeah, obviously, first time coming to Ontario was actually to this camp, so I didn't really know too much about it. But I mean, obviously, I'm really impressed. I'm from Alberta, so I think it's pretty similar. And yeah, it's been good to see this part of the country, and I really like it here. But I haven't ventured out to Belleville yet. I don't know what that's all about, but well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, he will get to see what Belleville's all about. Belleville and hockey fans here in the Quinte region will get to see what Zack Ostapchuk is all about. And again, just one of a handful of exciting prospects that are set to make their Senators debuts officially this season.
Yeah, and he's a really impressive prospect, as we mentioned, and not too many guys get to win gold medals twice at the World Juniors, so really excited to see what he's all about. Obviously, he's got a pretty impressive pedigree coming into his pro season.
So that's all we've got from development camp. Again, thanks to Leevi Merilainen, Zack Ostapchuk, Tyler Boucher, Jorian, Donovan, and General Manager Ryan Bowness for their time. Thanks for making the trip out there and getting that great stuff for us, Joel.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and obviously something we enjoyed to do, and obviously really enjoyed my time chatting with all these guys as well.
And lots more of that quality coverage to come through the summer and beyond. Coming up next week, again, we're hoping to get one of those newly re-signed Senators, perhaps Graham McPhee or Brennan Saulnier, on for a chat next week. Also, a new edition of Get to Know Your FO on the way. A couple new faces in the front office, and we'd like to start introducing you to some of those newer members of our staff. Mentioned it earlier, but the schedule is out soon, so you won't want to miss next week, just in case it turns into schedule release episode. With that in mind, don't forget again to subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening. Give us a rating and a review. And another reminder that group deposits are being accepted for the upcoming season. Same, you can still get your season seats, flex packs, and business elite program packages as well. All the info at BellevilleSens.com. And if you're out and about this weekend at the Belleville Waterfront Festival, don't forget to stop by the Belleville Sens tent and see Belly and get your entry into Belly's summer contest giveaway. That's it for us on episode 19, milestone episode 20, coming up next week. Again, for Joel Vanderlaan, David Foote, thanking you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week on the Belleville Sens podcast on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network.